How's it going, my bones? SilverDFanng back with more YouTube reactions. We got Suibhne. This is a history channel we checked back in the day. This time we got the history of Germany, part 1 and part 2. Enjoy. We're gonna watch Germany part 1 and part 2 by Suibhne.
Germany is like
Suibhne. USSR is Russian Nazis. Let's be fair.
located right in the center of Europe.
Okay, don't come at me. No, the USSR was not set up like the Nazis. They're very different.
Two largest neighbors, France and Poland. Strap yourselves in for a complicated one. When the Romans arrived in Germany, they found a land inhabited by a melting pot of Celtic and Germanic peoples. The diversity of the region didn't interest the Romans.
I'm not gonna lie. This one is kind of a baddie.
Who called the land west of the Rhine River Gaul and east of the river Germania. The Germanic peoples were really good at fighting the Romans, but the people in these regions lived mostly agrarian lifestyles in independent tribes. These small tribes soon became fewer big tribes. These tribes weren't a nation as such, but a conglomeration of independent smaller states for centuries, which is the reason why there are so many names for the German nation to this day.
Okay, I know Deutschland, I know Germany, never heard of Alemagani, never heard of Siskland, and I've never heard of Nemesis. Namuni?
The Germans expanded further into the weakening Roman Empire. This Great Migration period eventually became known as the Great Migration Period.
Good name.
One of the tribes called the Franks dominated the region and slowly conquered all of France, Germany, the Low Countries, and parts of Italy under the Merovingian and Carolingian dynasties. Much of this conquest can be attributed to Charlemagne, also known as Charles the Great. Charlemagne's empire became the foundation of the whole.
Also, one of the greatest emperor's beards. Okay, let me say that in English. This dude had one of the best beards in any nobility. Look at that glorious thing.
Holy Roman Empire, the symbolic successor to the actual Roman Empire. The empire was split into three kingdoms: East, West, and Middle Francia. East Francia eventually came under the control of Otto of Saxony, who married into the Italian kingdom, leading the Pope to revive the Holy Roman Empire.
Added to the submissions, Blaze.
One of the many precursors for the division of the Catholic and Orthodox Church, the latter of which was still firmly controlled by the Eastern Roman Byzantines. From the 11th to the 13th century, the Holy Roman Empire was a key nation in the Crusades, which began as military expeditions to the Holy Land against the growing Seljuk Turk Empire. In 1230, the German Teutonic Order of Knights annexed an area called Prussia in an attempt to eliminate the remnant pagans from Europe. Around the same time, German towns and villages were being settled in areas outside the empire into Poland and Hungary, leading to areas of high diversity and ethnic ambiguity. The best way to describe the Holy Roman Empire for the next few centuries is a very loosely united monarchy, with many smaller kingdoms and duchies with varying degrees of power and autonomy. The German lawyer Martin Luther began a period of change in the Catholic Church, which became known as the Protestant Reformation, making Germany a key focus in the splitting of the Church for a second time. Two kingdoms in the empire rose to dominate the rest: Habsburg Austria in the south and Brandenburg Prussia in the north. These two kingdoms became intense rivals, fighting wars and annexing large amounts of territory outside the empire. Both kingdoms fared very badly during the Napoleon.
Not gonna lie, Germany's roots, even before we get to World War II, is a history of conquest, control, losing control. Because of its location, Germany kind of is just right dab in the middle of Europe, and Europe, for centuries, loves taking over other parts of Europe.
Napoleonic Wars, and the Holy Roman Empire was officially abolished by the French Empire, who came to influence much of Western Europe. The French Revolution began a decades-long rise in nationalism in Germany, and many of the people sought to unify into a single nation. By 1866, Prussia had become the dominant power after the 7-week war against Austria, and set up the Northern Germanic Confederation in the following year, notably excluding their Austrian rivals. This became the German Empire just 4 years later, the first modern German nation-state. Germany was propelled to superpower status and even became involved in overseas colonization.
Guten Tag!
Tensions were high in Europe, and many distrusted the new powerful nation that had just appeared. This led to so many alliances in Europe since nobody trusted
Guten Tag, Guten Tag, Guten Tag, Guten Tag
anybody anymore, and each nation had to pick a side in case war broke out. And this preparation for war inevitably became its precursor. When the Slavic nationalist Gavrilo Princip assassinated the heir to the Austrian throne in 1914, war broke out in Europe between the Central Powers and the Allies. Germany ended up being a key aggressor in the war and was blamed for most of the atrocities committed.
Which I will say right now was bullshit. World War I was a clusterfuck. No one was the good guy. No one was just. No one was the bad guy. They all took advantage of this Austrian king being killed to pretty much do some concrete shit.
During battle. Extremely harsh war reparations were imposed on the state, and much of its territory was stripped in the Treaty of Versailles.
Yep.
This crippled the German economy, and angst against the Allied powers led.
Geez, I wonder, you made a bunch of people poor, unstable, you took their land, in your words, legally, but let's call that bullshit. What's going to happen to these people that are desperate for anything?
To the rise of National Socialism,
Yep.
with Adolf Hitler, one of its main advocates, rising to power on the resentment held by the common
Haven't
people.
seen this
Hitler
in modern day America.
became Chancellor in the year 1933, instituting radical reforms and imposing strict National Socialist ideals on the nation, which became known to the West as Nazi Germany. The regime was highly anti-Semitic and
If anyone ever tells you we've never seen anything like this in US modern day, tell them to go fuck themselves and read a fucking book.
allied itself with Fascist Italy and Imperial Japan to form the Axis powers of World War II. After a rapid expansion and then military decline, Nazi Germany was defeated and divided along the zones of occupation by Allied powers. West and East Germany continued as neighbors for the next few decades, and the Berlin Wall was erected around West Berlin to prevent defectors from the Communist East Germany. By 1990, the Communist East collapsed, being reunited with West Germany.
Tear down the
The
wall.
new German Republic is known for its high quality of living, exceptional engineering, and for playing a key role in rebuilding Europe, being one
They
of
do make good cars. I'm not gonna lie. They make good cars. They go
the
vroom
key
vroom.
founders of the European Union and the Eurozone.
So that was part one. How is there a part two?
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, and yes, that means that I've been setting up my very own website, using their Suibhne site. The homeland of the heathen was once the far north. From the groves
Okay.
and forests to the streams and oceans, they lived in isolation from their kin for centuries. Out of necessity, the wisest and strongest
I
among
like
them
the music.
ventured out, taking with them those brave enough to inhabit the Central European plateau. Their isolation had left them
Is he just redoing Germany?
marked by their eyes the color of oceans and their hair made of liquid gold or the amber that the sea spat onto their shores. In times of famine, they battled the marshes, the curse of troll skin.
Also, why are they using the like rubber band banjo music for the Germans? Yo, dog, it's me, Germanic Louisianan.
And the flies sent by Woden to punish dishonorable men. When the famines lifted, they fought with each other for soil and till, as well as the great Roman hegemony to the south. Some barbarians would trade with the empire, and some would wage war on the silver-armored despots. The Romans, seeing the threat, would push further into the frontier beyond the great Rhine River, which they called Germania.
Ooh ah ooh ah ooh ah ooh ah ooh ooh ah ah ooh ooh ah. I love he talks about a lot of murder, war, but his cute little Playmobil people are so adorable. In my first episode, I skipped over many of the important periods that made Germany the nation it is today. Also, the periods I did cover ended up not being fully fleshed out. In an effort to recidify this, I will be making a brand new History of Germany into its own series. I have the same plans for many of my older videos. Cool. Bam, 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 bam. I like the music choice.
In southern Scandinavia, where settlers from the Pontic Caspian steppe and the Caucasian mountains had migrated. Central Europe at this time was dominated by other peoples, the largest of which were the Celts, who were being slowly conquered by the Romans from Italy.
There we go.
These proto-Germans had strong cultural traditions. They had chieftains and governing assemblies called Thingr, where all free men would gather to interpret the words of the law speaker on secular matters. Religious leaders held ceremonies and rituals, and they worshipped deities such as Woden, Donar, and others. We know these in English as Odin and Thor. Proto-Germans had migrated out of Scandinavia around the 5th century BC in response to increased demand for farmland, since Scandinavia could not support the growing population. This will sound familiar to those who've seen the episodes on Denmark and Sweden, since the same would cause the Vikings to raid Europe over a millennia later. These Germanic tribes drove out or subsumed the Celts who already lived in the area between the Maas River in the Netherlands to the Vistula River in Poland. Julius Caesar viewed the Germanic barbarians as a threat to Italy and used this as well as other reasons to conquer Transalpine Gaul in order to set up a borderland near the Rhine Valley. During the Gallic Wars, the Romans began...
It's funny how that always works. Hey, we're worried about these people, so we're going to take your land so we can, defend you against these barbarians. We're good, right?
Began their conquest of Germania on the west side of the Rhine River, which was incorporated into Roman Gaul, and then divided into 2 provinces in 85 AD, Germania Inferior and Superior, with the Roman...
Oh, that's mean to Germanius Inferior. Oh, are you from Superior? No, I'm inferior.
founding the cities of Cologne and Mainz as imperial capitals. The lands east of the Rhine were called Germania Magna, or Greater Germany.
Big penis Germany.
Magna was not one state, but rather several undeveloped tribal confederations who traded with the Romans at the Limes Germania, as well as the Proto-Slavic and Eastern Baltic cultures. They referred to themselves by these tribal names, but also on some occasions as Theudisk, meaning people, which would eventually form the modern words Teutons and Deutsch, meaning German. From 12 BC to 6 AD, the Roman might came crashing down on Germania Magna, conquering all the way to the Elbe River under the reign of Augustus. However, a general named Arminius, a German prince captured and raised by the Romans, betrayed the Roman armies and led an ambush of the legions in...
What? This prince of a different country that we took as a child and raised didn't like that?
Gutenberg Forest, forcing a retreat back to the Rhine River. Never again would the Romans rule Germania Magna after one of the worst defeats in Roman history. Overall, the Germans had mostly a trade and mercenary-based relationship with the Romans, and many Germans even settled in the empire. But with their growing populations, they became ever more powerful, and raids on the empire became more and more common. Just as the Roman frontier was weakening, a huge-scale migration of Goths was happening from their homeland.
Those damn mascara-wearing Goths trying to invade the hot topic of Germany.
In Sweden, to the Vistula of Poland, and then to Crimea, and many Goths became pirates on the Black Sea.
Not Goth pirates, now they have 2 great outfits. God damn it, they're too powerful.
Goths were a ferocious and powerful tribe, and many other groups such as the Vandals, Burgundians, Alemanni, and Marcomanni pushed further into Rome to escape the Goths in the north and east. Rome struggled for many years against these tribes, barely managing to hold back the Chatti, Chauci, and the Marcomanni.
You made some of those
Goths
up.
Then split into 2 factions, the Ostrogoths and the Visigoths.
See, I'm a pure Goth. Well, I'm a visor Goth. I really focus on my eyes. So dumb.
However, real large-scale invasions would be triggered by yet another force.
Russia?
The Huns, probably cousins
right.
of the Xiongnu, invaded Europe in 373 like wildfire,
Forgot
destroying
about them.
everything in their path. They subjugated the Ostrogoths and harassed the other Germans and Romans alike.
You're no longer Goths. You're now emo.
Soon, other Germanic tribes pushed into the weak heart of Rome while fleeing from Attila and his powerful armies. The Visigoths would sack and plunder Rome under King Alaric in 455, before eventually conquering and settling in Spain. The Vandals conquered a kingdom in northern Africa and Carthage, and also sacked Rome when a political marriage betrothal was broken by Rome.
Wee!
The sack of the city was so wanton
Wee!
that vandalism
That dude is just
became
having
the word
fun.
for wholesale destruction in the Latin language. The Ostrogoths revolted against the Hunnic Empire, and once it collapsed, also eventually conquered parts of the Adriatic coastline before settling in the Kingdom of Italy. The rest of Rome was now ripe for the picking. The Burgundians negotiated a kingdom for themselves northwest of Italy. Part of the Suibhne Confederation conquered the west of Spain, while the rest settled north of the Burgundians under the name Alemanni.
Sweden, Bulgaria, Albania? I don't know. I could be making all that up.
The Franks took the lowlands, and the Angles, Saxons, and Utes,
I've been
together with their
emo,
cousins
chat,
the
haven't
Frisians,
worn any bright
took
colors in
Britannia,
years, and
forming
don't
the
start
basis
now.
of modern England. The whole of the Western Roman
You say Mongolian strong, Blaze.
Empire had fallen to Germanic tribes, and several kingdoms were now where her provinces had once stood. Germania Magna was, however, still wild and barbaric, with little in the way of the institutions and infrastructure in the Roman south. The Saxons, Thuringians, and Lombards still led a tribal life in the mostly undeveloped land. That is, until an unlikely new power arose.
Oh, God, don't talk about Lombard. My Lombard support is very low, just like these Lombards.
In the ashes of Roman Gaul, the Franks. I recently took this channel full time, and in doing so I decided to revisit some of my older episodes to take a more serious and in-depth look at their history. Doing a series on Germany has been on the top of that list for a while, and so you can expect the same to happen with other videos in due time. In addition, I've also been building a website to act as a portfolio for my work as a...
Okay, is there more Germany? Or this... Okay, I don't think there's any more Germany at the moment. But thank you, Suibhne. We learned a lot about Germany. Lot of Germany. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. Check me out on Twitch, SilverDFanng, 2 N's in Fang. Check me out on Twitter and Blue Sky under the same name. Also TikTok. Have a great night.